The sky was heavy with clouds, painted in strange violet light that covered the alien world. At the highest point of the cliffs, where the wind howled like a living beast, an alien girl stood alone. Her hair whipped across her face, her glowing skin pale under the storm. She looked down at the endless drop beneath her feet. Jagged rocks and dark waves waiting below. Her hands trembled as she whispered to herself, "This is the end. No more pain, no more shame." She had been cast aside by her own people. They told her she was weak, broken, not worthy of her tribe. Every word had cut her deeper than any blade, and now, standing on the cliff, she believed them. One step, and it would all be over. Her toes curled against the sharp stone, her body leaning forward. The wind pulled at her cloak as if trying to drag her into the abyss. She closed her eyes, ready to fall, but then, "Stop!" A voice called, deep and steady, cutting through the storm. Her eyes snapped open, her body freezing. She turned. Saw a man, a human, standing a short distance away. His armor was worn, scratched from travel, a spear strapped to his back, but his eyes calm, firm. Unshaken, were locked on her. "Step back," he said, his voice low but strong. "You don't want to do this." She glared at him, her glowing eyes filled with anger and sorrow. "Leave me, human. This is not your concern." The man did not move closer. He raised his hand slowly to show he carried no threat. "I've seen that look before," he said. "The look of someone who has given up. I know what it feels like." Her heart skipped, but she shook her head. "You don't know me. You don't know what I've lost." The human took one careful step forward. His boots crunched on the rock, his tone steady. "You're right. I don't know your story, but I know what it means to stand at the edge and think there's nothing left. I stood there once too." The alien girl's chest tightened, her breath sharp. For the first time, someone had spoken words that mirrored her own hidden thoughts. Her tribe never listened, never cared, yet here was a stranger, speaking as if he could see inside her soul. The waves crashed louder below, echoing her fear. She turned her face back to the cliff, tears burning her eyes. "What if I'm too weak to go on?" she whispered. "What if I'm nothing?" The human's voice grew firmer. "If you were nothing, you wouldn't be standing here now, fighting with yourself. Weakness is giving up without trying. Strength is still standing when the world tells you to fall." She trembled, her legs weak, her mind screaming to jump, but her body could not move forward. His words had wrapped around her like chains, pulling her back from the edge. The human lowered himself to the ground, sitting cross-legged on the stone. He kept his distance, his posture calm. "I won't force you," he said quietly. "If you choose to jump, that's your choice. But I won't walk away and let you believe no one cares." The girl turned, her eyes wide, her lips trembling. "Why? Why would you care?" The man's expression softened. "Because someone once cared for me, when I thought my life was worth nothing. If they hadn't, I wouldn't be here now, alive, standing before you." Her tears fell freely, her shoulders shaking. She had expected silence in her final moment, maybe even laughter from the shadows of her tribe. Instead, she found a voice that refused to let her go. The storm howled, lightning flashing across the sky. The human extended his hand, palm open, waiting. "Come back from the edge, just one step." Her body trembled as she stared at him. Her heart told her to believe, but her mind screamed with doubt. Still, something in his eyes steady, unbroken, pulled her forward. Her foot slid back, away from the drop, then another step, until the cliff was no longer under her toes. She collapsed to her knees, sobbing. The human stayed where he was, not touching, not pushing, only watching, his hand still waiting. "You are not alone anymore," he said softly. And for the first time in her life, she wondered if it might be true. The cliff had almost taken her, but his words had pulled her back. The edge of despair had not won, not tonight. The storm began to ease, the wind still wild but softer than before. The alien girl knelt on the cold stone, her body trembling from exhaustion. She had almost stepped into death, but the human's voice had pulled her back. Now silence filled the space between them. Heavy but unbroken, the human remained where he sat, not moving closer, not reaching for her. He knew she was fragile, like glass on the edge of shattering. One wrong word and she might run to the cliff again, so he spoke gently, his tone steady. "You don't have to tell me anything tonight," he said. "But I will tell you something. Life doesn't end the way you think. You believe the pain goes away if you fall, but it only ends your chance to rise." The girl lifted her head slowly, her glowing eyes searching his face. No mockery, no pity, only calm truth. Her lips trembled. "Why say these things? I am not your people. I am nothing to you." The human shook his head. "You are not nothing. If you were nothing, I would not see the fight in your eyes. I would not hear your voice. I would not be here talking to you." The words sank into her heart like drops of fire. Her own people never gave her such kindness. They told her she was a mistake, a burden, and she believed them, until now. The human shifted slightly, resting his arms on his knees. "Do you want to know something?" he asked. "There was a time when I also stood at the edge. Not here, not on this world, but on my own. I thought I was useless, broken. I thought the galaxy had no place for me. But one person, just one, spoke to me, and I am alive because of them." The girl's breath caught. Her eyes widening, she whispered, "So you know what this feels like?" "Yes," he said simply, his voice quiet but strong. "I know exactly how it feels. That is why I will not walk away from you." Her hands shook, pressing against the stone. She wanted to believe him, but fear pulled her back. What if I can't change? What if I am too weak? The human leaned forward slightly, his eyes firm. "Then let me be the strength you don't have yet. You don't need to stand alone. Not anymore." Tears slid down her glowing cheeks. Her mind was still tangled in the cruel words of her tribe. But his words were stronger, like light breaking through thick clouds. For the first time, she saw herself not as a failure, but as someone who could still rise. The human stood slowly and extended his hand again. Not demanding, only offering. "You don't have to decide everything tonight. All I ask is that you walk away from the edge with me. Just for now, just for this night." Her eyes locked on his hand, her body tense, every part of her screamed with doubt, but something inside whispered softly, "Trust him." She reached out, her hand trembling, and placed it in his. His grip was firm but gentle, steady like stone. Together they walked away from the cliff, step by step. Each step felt heavy, yet lighter than the fall she had nearly chosen. The storm behind them rolled across the sky, but the air between them felt calm. They stopped beneath a cluster of strange glowing trees, their leaves shining with silver light. The human gave her a small pouch. Inside was dried food and water. "Eat," he said. "Your strength will return little by little." She took it hesitantly, her lips parting. "No one has ever—" she began, but the words broke into silence. The human smiled faintly. "Then let this be the first time." She chewed slowly, the taste bitter but real. Her eyes flicked toward him, curious despite herself. "Why risk your time on me?" she asked. "Because," he said, staring up at the stars, "sometimes the smallest life you save can change the whole universe. You may not see it yet, but I do." Her chest tightened, not with despair but with something new, a warmth she had never felt before. She whispered to herself, almost afraid of the words, Maybe I was meant to hear you tonight." The human glanced at her, his gaze steady. "Maybe you were," he said. The night stretched on, the storm moving farther away. The girl no longer felt the cliff pulling her. Instead, she felt the humans. Words anchoring her, strong, unshakable, and alive. And though she did not yet know where this path would lead, for the first time, she wanted to find out. The morning sun broke through the clouds, spilling light across the alien world. The human walked beside the alien girl, his steps steady, hers unsteady, as if each movement was a test of strength. She had survived the night, not because of her, Will, but because of his words now, away from the cliff. She felt different, still broken, but not alone. They stopped near a stream, its water glowing faintly with strange minerals. The human knelt, filling a small flask, and handed it to her. "Drink," he said simply. She hesitated, her fingers brushing his hand as she took it. The warmth of his skin made her heart tighten. She drank slowly, the cool water soothing her dry throat. For a long time, silence stretched between them, broken only by the sound of rushing water. Finally she whispered, "You saved me. But I don't understand why. Your people gain nothing from me. My tribe cast me aside. They said I am weak." The human looked at her with calm eyes. Then they were blind. Strength is not in the blood. It is in the choice to keep walking. When the world tries to stop you, his words cut through her doubts. But fear lingered. What if I fail again? She asked, her voice trembling. "Then you stand again," he replied. "Falling does not make you weak. Refusing to rise again does." Her lips parted, speechless. No one had ever spoken to her like this. His words were simple, but they felt heavier than the cruel voices of her tribe. They carried truth, and truth was something she had long forgotten. That day, the human began to show her small things. He taught her how to walk quietly in the forest, how to use a simple blade to cut wood. He shared food from his pack, though. It left him with little for himself. Each lesson was small, yet to her, it felt like she was learning to live for the first time. At night, they sat beneath glowing trees. The human told short stories of his own world, of skies painted blue, of fields that stretched far without end, of battles fought and lost. She listened, her glowing eyes wide, as if drinking in every word. It was strange to her, the way he spoke, not with pride or arrogance, but with honesty. He never claimed to be perfect, only human. Slowly, trust began to grow. Fragile like glass, but alive, she found herself speaking. More, at first only short answers, then longer. One evening, she told him her name, a name she had never spoken since her tribe abandoned her. Her voice shook, as if afraid it no longer belonged to her, but the human repeated it softly, and in his voice, it sounded whole again. Still, shadows lingered. One night, as they rested near the stream, she woke to the sound of his breathing. Steady and calm in sleep, she stared at him, her chest heavy. A thought whispered in her mind. What if he leaves me too? The fear clawed at her heart, making her hands tremble. But when his eyes opened, catching her gaze, he only smiled faintly and said, "I'm still here." 3 words, nothing more, but they silenced her fear. She turned her face away, hiding the tears that slipped down her cheeks. For the first time, she wanted someone to stay. And for the first time, she believed someone might. But trust is always tested. One evening, as they walked back toward his camp, shadows moved in the trees. Predators with glowing eyes and sharp claws emerged, circling them. The girl froze, her body stiff with terror. The human raised his blade. Standing in front of her, his stance calm, the beasts snarled, lunging forward. The human struck quickly, his movements sharp and practiced. One fell, another staggered, but more closed in. The girl's heart raced, fear choking her. Then she remembered his words. Strength is in the choice to keep walking. Her hands shook as she grabbed a fallen branch. When one beast lunged, she swung with all her strength. Striking its face, it stumbled back with a roar, shocked by her defiance. The human glanced at her, a flicker of pride in his eyes. "Good," he said. "Stand, fight, live." Together, they pushed back the predators until the forest grew silent. Again, the girl dropped the branch, her chest heaving. She stared at her trembling hands. Shocked she was still alive, the human placed a hand on her shoulder, steadying her. "You see?" he said softly. "You are not weak." Her lips trembled, but this time not with despair. For the first time she believed his words. Maybe she was not weak, not useless, not nothing. Maybe she was something more. The bond between them was still fragile, still uncertain, but it was real, and it was growing. And in that fragile bond, hope began to bloom. The forest was quiet that night. its glowing plants casting pale light across the ground. The human and the alien girl sat near a small fire, their shadows dancing against the trees. They had been walking together for many days, eating little, resting when they could. Slowly, trust had begun to grow between them, fragile but real. Yet the girl's eyes still carried a storm, a weight she had not spoken of. Her hands trembled when she held food. Her voice faltered whenever she tried to laugh. It was as if her heart was chained by memories she could not break. The human noticed her silence. He had seen warriors hide wounds behind armor, and he recognized the same in her. He did not push, but tonight he finally asked, "What is it you're carrying? What is the truth you hide?" The girl froze, her glowing eyes fixed on the flames, her lips pressed together, her chest rising sharply with each breath. For a moment she said nothing, as if his question had opened a wound too deep to touch. Then she whispered, "They said I was cursed." The human tilted his head, listening. She clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. "My tribe believed every child must be strong, gifted with power of our bloodline. But when I was born, my power did not come. I was slower, weaker, different." Her voice shook, but she forced herself to continue. "From the beginning, they looked at me with disappointment. As I grew, they began to mock me. I trained harder, I bled for them. But it was never enough. Every failure was proof to them that I was broken. And finally, they cast me out." Tears burned in her glowing eyes, sliding down her cheeks. Her body trembled, the memory as sharp as the day it happened. "They told me I was a waste of food, a burden to the tribe. The elders said my blood was tainted, and that my death would bring peace. They laughed when I left. They wanted me gone." Her words broke into silence, heavy and raw. The human's jaw tightened, his eyes fixed on her with quiet anger, not at her, but at those who had abandoned her. "You believed them," he said softly. Her head snapped toward him, her voice bitter. "What else could I do? They were my people, my family. If they said I was nothing, then I must be nothing." The human leaned closer, his voice sharp now. "No, you are not what they said. Strength is not born in bloodlines or names. It is born in survival, and you have survived what would have killed others." Her chest rose sharply, his words cutting through her despair. But still, the doubt clawed at her. What if I truly am cursed? What if I am only a burden to you as well? The human's eyes did not waver. "Then I would still choose to walk with you. Not because you are perfect, but because you are alive, and that is enough." The girl stared at him, her tears glimmering in the firelight. Her tribe had called her weak, cursed, worthless. Yet this human called her survivor. His words carried more weight than the lies she had lived under all her life. She whispered, almost too soft to hear, "You speak as if you believe in me more than I do." He nodded. "Then borrow my belief until you find your own." Her throat tightened, her heart pounding. For the first time, she felt her pain lighten, not because it was gone, but because she had shared it. The human had not turned away. He had not judged. He had listened, and in his silence there was acceptance. But even as she felt hope, fear remained. She looked into the fire and whispered, "If my tribe finds me again, they will not spare me. They will finish what they began." The human's eyes narrowed, his voice calm but filled with steel. "Then let them try. They will not touch you while I stand." Her breath caught, her chest tightening with something she did not recognize. It was not fear this time, but a strange warmth, a fragile bond that was no longer only survival, but something deeper. The fire crackled between them, the night stretching long and heavy. But for the first time, the dark truth was no longer hers alone. She had given it to him, and he had carried it without hesitation. And as she lay down to rest, her eyes closing, she whispered one last thought into the night. "Maybe I am not cursed after all.